Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show. Today we continue following the journey of the young Soviet couple, an angry wife Nelly and her naughty husband, who purchased putyovkas, like trip to northern Europe on a cruise ship Estonia, which happened in October of 1978. A group of 40 people from Ukrainian town of Vashilovgrad traveled by train to Moscow and will follow this trip thanks to the diary that Nelly kept for the duration of this cruise. It's definitely a unique situation because unfortunately not many people keep diaries. Actually, my diary saved my bacon when I decided to write a book about my adventures in America, because I diligently kept diary all the way through 1995 and 96 and 97, 98. So she kept a diary, and fortunately they didn't throw it away after she passed away. So now we have this great opportunity to look back into 1978. Okay, so back to her diary. So they were on a train from Vashilovgrad to Moscow. Then the next, it says, in Moscow, we took a taxi for 4 rubles, so she is really specific about money spent, to Leningrad railroad station. Now, so in Moscow, they have several railroad stations, and names were based on the direction. So all the trains from south, from Ukraine, were arriving to Kievsky Vokzal, so it's a Kiev railroad station. And so from the Kiev railroad station, they had to travel all across the Moscow to Leningrad railroad station, which trains that go north, which is extremely inconvenient. They probably could use public transportation, but with all the luggage they had, it was, I betcha, quite inconvenient, so they could save a lot of money and maybe spend 50 kopecks traveling by bus or tramway or trolley bus, but they decided to just take a taxi and do it quick and easy. So when they arrived to the Leningradsky Vokzal, Leningrad railroad station, it says they could barely find spot to store their luggage, so they had so-called камера хранения. So remember those good old days before 9/11, you can actually find lockers to store your luggage so you can spend some time without carrying your bags around. So that's what they went for at the train station. They found камера хранения. So that was like individual lockers, a pretty much big room, and a mean lady. You pay money, she puts your bags or travel cases on a shelf and give you this number that where your luggage is, and then you can roam the Moscow if you have time. And there it goes quite interesting. So she claims that starosta, so they have a lady who is in charge of their group, so she called like starosta, so can't even know how to translate correctly, but so she's in charge of the group, and she said that everyone should be back by 10 p.m. because train leaves at 11 at 2300. But totally by accident, 2 of the ladies from their group found out that train actually leaves at 21:30 at 9:30. So that's really strange why she told them the wrong time. But she basically told them to come back at 10 p.m. while train actually was leaving at 9:30. So it kind of messed through the wrench in their plans, because it looks like they wanted to actually explore Moscow before hopping on a train to Leningrad. So then it looks like they went to explore Moscow, and it says the Moscow subway is beautiful, very, very pretty station. So if you've ever been in Moscow, they really spend a lot of money making subway stations. It looks like palaces, which is really kind of, now looking back, I find it extremely strange. Why would you spend so much time and money and put marble and all these fancy decorations on a subway station? But of course, when I first time saw subway station in New York, I was shocked how basic and not cool it was. Next, I visited Izmailovsky Park, and she writes that she enjoyed the smell of freshness, forest, and fall. I mean, we're talking about October, right? So fallen leaves created a special smell that I enjoyed too. Then Nelly writes that she wasn't able to do any shopping, and then they had lunch in the restaurant Moscow. So it seems to me as there was organized excursion. So from the train station, they actually took a bus and like did a group excursion all over the Moscow. After lunch, they also saw Red Square, Kremlin, Lenin's mausoleum, the church of Vasily Blazhenny, and she wrote that she was very impressed with the nighttime lighting for the church. So, at night when they turned the lights to illuminate the church, she was very impressed. And then they left for Leningrad. They arrived to Leningrad in early morning, and looks like she's complaining that till 9 a.m. they had to be just waiting at the train station. Now, if you arrive from Moscow to Leningrad, so in Moscow you need to be at the Leningrad train station, and when you arrive to Leningrad, you arrive to Moscow train station, Moskovsky Vokzal. Finally, at 9 o'clock, a bus arrived and it took them to the seaport, Morskoy Vokzal. So like a sea station almost, you can just lay there. They had breakfast, and after breakfast they had so-called free time. So Nelly right away went to Passage, so that's, be my guess, biggest shopping area those days in Leningrad, and she purchased herself a jacket, shoes, gloves, nightgown, bra. So it seems like in Voroshilovgrad those items weren't available, so she had to wait and buy stuff in Leningrad, take her opportunity. So as I mentioned many times, cities like Moscow, especially Moscow, then Leningrad, they were best supplied cities in Soviet Union. So those stores had way more better selection, way more goods than stores in the small towns like Voroshilovgrad. And the most interesting and curious part started after she returned back to the seaport, and she wrote that next was conversation or like interview with, and we use the word organ. It's almost, you can translate like a inner gut. It's another meaning of the word, but organ, it means that she talked to KGB. So actually every person who was heading out for the trip beyond the Soviet Union had to have a conversation, an interview with KGB officer, discuss what they can do, how they supposed to behave and stuff like that. So short sentence, just потом на собеседование с органами. That's a big deal. I mean, they could fail you right there if they get suspicious that maybe you're planning to escape, and you can just lose your chance to see other countries. So she went through the interview successfully. Then, of course, it's Soviet Union. It gets even better. Then her next sentence is "Nudный досмотр." So their belongings got searched. So like nudny means like there was long and boring process. So they opened their luggage and they went through all their stuff, make sure they don't smuggle anything out of country, and they probably were looking for any contraband or currency, foreign currency, or Soviet rubles. Like you weren't supposed to take any extra money with you except what was allowed. And a quick note, there were some comments in my previous video about this trip. So every Soviet tourist was allowed to purchase only a specific amount of foreign currency. So these people, they had about $32 per person. So they were allowed to convert Soviet rubles into dollars, and I was too lazy to do the math, but at that time official exchange rate was 63 kopecks for $1. So 63 rubles could buy $100. But of course they don't let you buy $100. They only let you buy what looks like, so if they got 32, so maybe like 20 rubles, they could convert 20 rubles and $32. That's it. This is only money you're allowed to take with you on a 2-week trip across the Northern Europe. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? How little amount. You could just buy some basic souvenirs, nothing else. And I'm actually planning to make a separate video on the topic about, because this is one of the things that people who miss Soviet Union, they always mention how strong was the Soviet ruble, that you could buy $100 for only 63 rubles. Although in reality, if you wanted to go and buy, like if you don't have any trip coming up, you could find people that would sell you dollars, but the black market rate was 3 to 4 rubles per $1. So official rate was 63 kopecks per dollar. Real market rate was 3 rubles per $1. So some people would buy on the black market and then they try to smuggle those dollars with them on a trip so they can buy more goods. That's the reason why every tourist was searched prior boarding the ship or a plane. Okay, so back to the diaries. So after interview and the search, they finally got all their papers officially stamped, and at 10 o'clock they boarded the ship, the cruise liner called Estonia. Now, I also had some questions about Estonia because they used quite a few years ago, a ferry called Estonia sunk with a big loss of life. I think we're talking about different ships. This was actually a cruise liner. It wasn't a ferry boat. But it also had a name Estonia. Or she, probably, right? The ship's supposed to be she, not it. So after boarding the Estonia ship, Nelly writes that she was very impressed that after dirt or mud and cold weather and rain, she was very impressed with the ship, that everywhere was the rugs and every room, cayuta, was designed for 4 people, had its personal shower and bathroom. It was warm and cozy there. So as you see, our heroes of our story already had quite an adventure, and the cruise even didn't start yet. It's just, the whole adventure was just to get from the Voroshilovgrad to Leningrad, and they already experienced a lot of interesting new things. So now they're on the cruise liner Estonia, ready to head out and see Stockholm. And another quick side note, I actually read some of the diary, not the printed version, and she mentions that they had agreement with her husband that in order to make everything look good, they're gonna go together on this trip, and after they're done with cruise, they're gonna break up and divorce. So another kind of really awkward situation. We have this family couple going on the cruise for the very first time in their life. It's kind of romantic, right? But they already have the arrangement that after they're done with this cruise, they're gonna split up and divorce. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this part 2 of the Soviet cruise story. As always, I'm more than happy to see your comments and your likes on this video, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания, goodbye. Hey, by the way, the cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, Please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet Union.